Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. Hope everyone's doing good. It is a very cold Thursday morning at about 10:37. Been very cold. I guess it's supposed to get warm again this weekend and might be getting a lot of rain in the 40s. But it's been very cold. But we had a nice little storm this week, and it's very wintry and puts you a little bit in the Christmas frame of mind. So very pretty, definitely. Not a fan of these cold temperatures. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. When it's in the teens and almost single digits, not a fan. But it is what it is. I do like the snow itself, but when it's a little bit warmer, even if it's in 20s and 30s, I can take that. But that's not a big deal. But when it's like 10 degrees, not a fan. Or when it gets even colder. But anyway, so today is on a show on a movie I have been wanting to get to. I did do a post and also a review back in the days of where I was just using Facebook on my Film Fanatic page. And now that I have the YouTube channel, I haven't done a video on this movie, but I really want to talk about it. It's a movie. I think it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite like action movies, and it's a movie I never hear really talked about. And I think it's there's a couple really big names in the movie, and it's never really gotten the acclaim. Super underrated, but amazing. And that is the Antonio Banderas movie, The 13th Warrior. Such a badass movie. It came out in 1999. It's hard to believe it's like as old as it is. But amazing. I don't own it on Blu-ray, which is a crying shame. I do have it on DVD. I do need to get an upgrade because this movie is, just a searing epic. On so many levels. It's I think it's one of the best tales of where a film that has a really great love and appreciation for the Viking culture and the Viking aesthetic. It's one. This film's also directed by John McTiernan, who back in the day he was pretty much the biggest name in American action movies. Of course, Die Hard, that was his huge movie. He's directed a couple. I think he directed one or two other films. I think he directed the second one. I could be wrong, but Die Hard, of course, with Bruce Willis, iconic, one of the best, one of the most classic action movies, and one of the best Christmas movies. Predator, also just an amazing film, an amazing film. He has always been one of my favorite action directors. Grew up watching a lot of his films. Just amazing. The Hunt for Red October is another film that he directed, which is just such a one of the best war submarine war movies that you'll ever see. Sean Connery, just nail biting suspense. The Thomas Crown Affair, which is actually a really great film too. He's done some great films. The Last Action Hero, one of the most underrated Schwarzenegger movies. Just a fabulous movie. Really, really good movie. But the 13th Warrior is right up there with Predator as far as being my favorite film. It's basically about a Muslim ambassador played by Antonio Banderas who is exiled from his homeland, Ahmad Ibn Fabian. He finds himself in the company of the Vikings while the behavior of the Norsemen initially offends him. The more cultured outsider grows to feel like an affinity and an affection to these new people in his life. During their travels, Fadlan and the Vikings get word of an evil presence closing in, and they must face and fight the frightening, formidable force, which is thought to be this clan of monsters that exist. And this film does such a great job of playing up on how there's a a shroud of mystery around this clan of mysterious warriors and monsters, but also the idea finding out the identity of who they are and if they're actually mortal men. But it's got some of the most incredible battle scenes ever in a film. It's super brutal too. It's a super brutal film. A lot of intensity throughout the entire film. Beautifully shot. I mean, the cinematography for this film. That's why it's a crying shame that I don't own this on Blu-ray. I really, really need to get this. And I also, like I said before, I think it's one of the coolest, one of the best portrayals of like Viking culture. You really get a sense the ships that they use, the use of how mythology and the Norse gods were a part of their daily lives, and just how incredibly brave and merciless they were. Just amazing and fearless. So, and I never hear about this movie ever talked about. It came out in 1999, and I think it's easily one of the best action movies. And I said before, it's right up there for me as far as The Predator, which is my favorite John McTiernan movie. Um, and this movie, I don't know what it is. I've just never heard anybody talk about it. I remember a few years back, a coworker of mine, we just randomly started talking about movies, and she brought it up if I had seen this movie, and I was like, "Oh wow, like you're the only person I know that has seen this movie." I got this copy of the 13th Warrior. I think it was last year or the year before on DVD. But again, I do need to get an upgrade. It's because visually it is such a powerful movie. It's also based on a book. It's based on um, a Michael Crichton novel. The Yeah, The Eaters of the Dead, which would be an interesting read. That would be definitely an interesting. Yeah, Michael Crichton wrote it in '76, Eaters of the Dead. So this film is based on that. But I mean, again, and I've always loved, back in the day, and in the '90s, and so and before, especially that decade. But Antonio Banderas was in so many films. Now it's like he's in a few films now, but it's pretty sporadic. He's gotten a little bit older. I was obviously older, like we all do, but he still looks great. But he's been in a few films. I saw him recently in a film that came out last year or the year before. Pedro Almodovar film, who I'm a huge fan of. He's one of my favorite directors. So, and that was like last year. But during this time when he made the 13th Warrior, because he is the star. This film also stars Omar Sharif. Just amazing. He was he was in virtually it seemed like every other movie that was coming out at that time. I mean, he did, of course, Interview the Vampire was like his big thing, and then he did Desperado, um, with Robert Rodriguez, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those movies were huge. I remember he did Assassins with Sylvester Stallone. He did the Zorro films; those were huge. He did like two or three of those. Um, yeah, he did a bunch of movies at one point. He did some comedies. He did some action movies. I've always loved his presence. I've always thought he was a really great actor. So I think this is his best role as far as being an action star. It's really great. It's pretty amazing. The cast is wonderful. The This movie really reminds me also of John Boorman's Excalibur in a lot of ways because of the use of mysticism and kind of the occult element, the mysterious element, but the battle scenes are just so amazing. And with Excalibur, which is a movie I really need to do a show on, Excalibur has such a grittiness to it, and it's so real because everything that you see in camera is real. And this film has that same thing. Like, the battle scenes are all on horseback for the most part, and all of the places where they are traveling, and where they take camp, and places that they invade in this movie all feel like real locations. They're all real lived in, so it has that real, kind of low down and dirty vibe to it. And I don't believe this film had. I mean, this came out again quite a few years ago, and I don't believe this film has any real CGI in it. And it is a giant, kind of sweeping spectacle of a movie. Amazing battle scenes. There's one scene in particular where the Vikings have a base camp. This mysterious clan of warriors that they eventually fight, they're called the Wendo, and they are like basically these mystical, or you're thought to believe they're these mystical kind of monsters that live in these caves. And there's this whole scene in this film of where the Vikings are at this base camp, and they see the Wendo coming up from the horizon on horseback, and you see these torches, and where they're riding with these torches, and it's breathtaking. The cinematography for this film is just incredible. Again, like I said, and I say anyone out there who has not seen this film, do yourself a favor and see this. If you're in the mood for some just incredible action, and it's the ending is just incredible, and there's a cool like kind of reveal. There's a real satisfying ending. The battle scenes are just spectacular. The cinematography is spectacular. The locations, the sets are just amazing. It's epic. I mean, it is the definition of an epic film. So please see this. 13th Warrior from 1999 from the fabulous John McTiernan. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.